You're listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast, hosted by Dylan Dillo Smith, Midwestern Ontario one and only MMA podcast, where we interview MMA fighters and voice actors like Sergeant Frank Woods.
What is up, everybody? It is Dillo, and welcome to another episode of the Dillo's Dojo podcast. I believe this is episode 36 now, and we just got some big shit to get through today. We had a lot of MMA happen this weekend, including some cards that are happening as we speak, as I'm recording this on Sunday. But we're going to get into the UFC 274 results, some shit that happened because of UFC 274, so we'll get into that as well. And just, all in all, everything happening with UFC 274. There was also Bellator 280. A PFL card happened this weekend. LFA 131 happened. I believe a Titan FC card also happened Friday. So we're going to talk about all of that today. But I just want to talk about one thing before I get into the UFC 274 card. So last night, the main event, the lightweight title was up for grabs, but only for one person. And usually I wouldn't be too mad about that because somebody missed weight. So obviously it's not going to be up for grabs for anybody, right? But the reason why I'm a little bit upset is what happened Friday. I believe it was Friday morning it happened. So what happened was they did their whole morning weigh-ins before the fight night, and that's what they have to do. So they weigh in the back before the actual morning ceremonial weigh-ins, and then they weigh in front of everybody. And according to multiple reports, including Norma Dumont and a couple of other fighters on the card, stated that the Athletic Commission's officials, or the hotel officials, either one, stated to the fighters that the scales were off. So some fighters came in, weighed in properly, and then when scales were recalibrated, they weren't weighing in properly, or vice versa. They weighed in backstage, they weren't calibrated properly. Everybody thought, hey, I weighed in properly, and then they go right out to the actual properly calibrated scale, as they claim, and they're weighing 0.5 over or a pound over, a little less than they expected, even though, say, like a digital scale told them that they're on weight or anything like that. So there was multiple accounts, not just like one or two, but multiple accounts of fighters is claiming that exact story, corroborating that exact story, and then, made more suspicious by the fact that 20 fighters on the card weighed over 0.5, and usually this wouldn't be suspicious because this happens on other cards, but this was made suspicious by the fact that multiple fighters corroborated the story of being told by officials that they didn't know which scale, but one of the scales was fucky. And it ended up showing because quite a few fighters missed weight on Friday. And one of them was Charles Oliveira, the lightweight champion at the time. As soon as that happened, he wasn't particularly stripped, but come fight night last night, like when the fight started, as soon as they walked into that cage last night, the title was up for grabs for anybody to grab, but only eligible for Justin Gaethje. And I just feel the swiftness that they stripped Charles, or the swiftness that they made that choice, kind of made a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. And then on top of the fact that there's clearly some fuckery going on backstage, the commissions won't admit wrongdoing. That's another thing that actually upset me. Like I said, this usually wouldn't upset me. A fighter missing weight, a champion being stripped because they couldn't make weight, usually wouldn't upset me if it wasn't for the fact that there was multiple fighters corroborating the story that the scales had been messed with or the scales weren't properly calibrated, leading to a lot of the fighters believing they were on weight, and then when they stepped on the scale in front of the audience, like in front of the press, they were a pound over or a half a pound over, and then they were off weight. So, usually I wouldn't care that a bunch of fighters missed weight, but if it wasn't for that one suspicious fact, I wouldn't even be making a big deal about this, right? But that's it for the UFC 274 conspiracy theory. I'll get into the actual results in a bit, but let's talk about the other MMA that happened this weekend. Starting with Bellator 280, because this was a decently big card. It was another, I believe, their first event in Paris since like 2019 or something like that, 2020, something like that. So obviously, who better to headline it than Paris fucking idol, I guess you could consider. I don't know if Czech Congo is huge in Paris, but he got quite the reception when he came out. So they got fucking Thibaut Gouti, first of all, another French native, but they got the man, the myth, the legend, Czech Congo, to fight Ryan Bader for the heavyweight title. So we'll get into that in a bit. But let's talk about the actual card. Let's just lay it out on the line for everybody here. We had a decent card here, including Thibaut Gouti being on the card. And I want to talk about the Thibaut Gouti fight because, my God, man, I don't know if it's Thibaut Gouti can't finish a fucking Happy Meal from McDonald's or if fucking his opponent was just that tough. But Thibaut Gouti, man, just was putting it on him and had him really hurt on several occasions, knocking him down on several occasions, but his opponent just fucking giving her, man, just surviving every moment of the round. He was a tough son of a bitch. But yeah, we're going to the main event real quick to talk about it, because we also have LFA 131's main event to talk about, and Titan FC's main event to talk about. We'll get into those two in a bit. But Ryan Bader versus Czech Congo for the the heavyweight title. This happened once before in, I believe, 2019, and it ended up ending in a no contest due to Czech Congo feigning a eye poke on the ground. Every time I see the replay of the supposed eye poke, it's so clear that it's not an eye poke. The thumb hits the cheek. It could have been an eye poke, but the thumb hits the cheek, and then Czech Congo complains about the eye poke, and it ends up being a no contest. He thought he could get an easy one, get a DQ, but he ended up not getting the DQ. And so this was like 3 years in the making. And it finally happened. And it was a fucking snooze fest. It was very one-dimensional, very one-sided. It was a clear showing. I said it to everybody that asked me about this main event. Who do you think's going to win? I said Ryan Bader, if Czech Congo has not patched the holes in his wrestling defense or his grappling defense. And considering how old he is, I doubt he has. And that showed me on Friday night that no, he did not patch any of the fucking holes in his game, because Ryan Bader was taking him down at will, holding him down there and just pounding him out, man. It was an entire fight of just Ryan Bader taking him down to the ground and grappling with him. Very, very one-sided, really boring. Honestly, I can't fault Ryan Bader for having a boring fight because he did what he had to do. But at the same time, I can also fault Ryan Bader for having a boring fight because he didn't even bother to stand and bang with Czech Congo. He just kind of went for that takedown. Literally just every time went for that takedown. So, yeah, I'm not going to fault Ryan Bader for having a boring fight, but at the same time, I'm gonna. But it wasn't a fun main event. Very one-sided, very one-dimensional. Very easy to tell who was going to win if you know even the slightest bit about MMA. So, you know, good win for Ryan Bader, I guess. Next up, though, which also happened on Friday night, was LFA 131, who, other in the main event, was the Tough alum. This season's, not the one that's happening now, but Tough 29, I believe it was. That season of The Ultimate Fighter alum, Daniel Argueta, fighting for the vacant LFA bantamweight title. And after a hard-fought fight against, I believe it's Diego Silva he was up against. I think it was Diego. Yeah, it was Diego Silva he was up against, and he had an incredibly hard-fought fight against Diego Silva. Ended up edging out a split decision, and now Daniel Argueta, whose only loss in his pro career was an exhibition bout on The Ultimate Fighter, is 8-0 and your new LFA bantamweight champion. That wasn't the only MMA that happened that night, though, because we also had Titan FC's card, who other in the main event was Luis Pena, finally returning after being cut from the UFC and dealing with a myriad of legal issues, per se. So let's talk about that real quickly. I want to talk about this one specifically because, one, it's Luis Pena. I don't know if he's dealing with his, his fucking legal trouble still, but I know for a fact that he got cut from the UFC because I think he was on a losing streak and because of his whole issues with the law. But I thought he was supposed to be fighting in ACA. They had a lightweight Grand Prix happening, and quite literally, I think next week or the week after, he's supposed to be fighting overseas. So I was really surprised to see him in the main event. I don't know if he stepped up on short notice or something, but He ended up making very short work of his opponent, Zach Zane, in like under a minute with a triangle choke, I believe. It was a nasty triangle choke, too. The co-main event was a weird mismatchup. I didn't like it. It was a 10-3 fighter at the time going up against a 2-0 guy at the time. I don't know, man. That's kind of a weird matchup. And of course, as expected, the 10-3 guy made short work of the 2-0 fighter. So I don't know. Titan FC kind of slipping on their matchmaking recently. Starting to look like Alaska FC, man. But anyway, Luis Pena winning in the main event to Titan FC 76. Thought that was weird that he was fighting in the first place, but hey, that's happening. Anywho, that's it for the little cards. Obviously, we have more happening as we speak. I believe there's a Fury UFC fight happening and another LFA card happening. So, as we speak, there's more MMA happening. But that's it for the fights that have happened as of recording. Let's get in to UFC 274's prelims, and then their pretty fucking banging main card. Nonetheless, let's ignore the whole conspiracy theory and the whole drama that's happening behind UFC 274. Let's be real. The prelims are pretty stacked, and the main card is fucking banging, so we'll get into that, and we won't talk about the whole conspiracy anymore. We'll just get straight into the fights. So let's get right into it, folks. Let's get into the violence. Before we continue on to the fights, I just want to thank Smooth My Balls for sponsoring this episode. Ladies, fellas, let's be real. It's uncomfy to have a jungle down there, and be honest with yourself. Your significant other may not like it either. You don't have to worry about that anymore with Smooth My Balls Turf Chopper 3.0. This little bad boy has a diamond groove grip to make it easier to grip in the shower, as well as a long-lasting battery that is waterproof, so it can be used in the shower as well. Also, if you're worried about cutting yourself up down there, well, then the Turf Chopper has you covered with its alloy polished blade that has a micro-sized teeth that makes it practically impossible to nick yourself down there. Also, cleanup is easy too with their Pube Muncher 1.0, a little hair vacuum-like thing that makes cleaning up your pubes as easy as clapping. So, if you want to stay clean down there, you can visit www.smoothmyballs.com/Dillo, that's DILLO, for 15% off of your order, or enter code DILLO, DILLO, at checkout for 15% off. Once again, thank you to Smooth My Balls for sponsoring this episode. Alrighty, let's get into UFC 274. So before I begin, I just want to mention, I did mention we have a banging card, and the card was fucking amazing. But I do want to mention this, that in the middle of the prelims last night, there was a change. The main card was changed for not the greater good, but still, the change they made wasn't a bad change, and it was a nice welcome addition to the card. But fuck it, I'm just going to say it. So last night, Donald Cerrone was supposed to fight Joe Lozon for kind of like a... Nobody wanted to say it, but it's implied. It was a winner fucking stays, loser leaves town type of deal. I love saying that because it's like a cowboy-esque type thing, and, Donald Cerrone is the cowboy, but it was literally that. It was a winner fucking stays, gets to do whatever, loser has to leave town. And, well, we never got to see that because I believe it was the third fight of the night. The Clayton Rodriguez versus CJ Vergara fight was about to start, and before that, unfortunately, our favorite broadcaster, our favorite P3 ambassador, John Anik, had to break the news and told us that Donald Cerrone was out of his bout against Joe Lozon due to a non-COVID-19 related illness. So I believe it was probably like food poisoning, or his weight cut was so bad. I don't know, something along the lines. Let me just put it this way. I think his weight cut was bad. His body is in shock. His body is quite literally failing because he's weight cutting, and that's not easy on the body. His body's rejecting food, so I think he wasn't feeling well. His body couldn't fucking take in food, couldn't replenish the water weight fast enough. He wasn't in fighting shape, so the commission didn't clear him. The fight didn't end up happening. But we did get Randy Brown versus Chaos Williams on the main card. That got moved to the main card. If you guys didn't know, you guys should know if you were paying attention to the card. Randy Brown versus Chaos Williams was supposed to headline the ESPN prelims. Unfortunately, things change. We ended up getting, I believe, I believe it was Francisco Trinaldo going up against somebody. And I just gotta say, man, when I get into that fight, I'll talk about it. But that was a fucking great fight. Old man power for the win. But let's get into these fights. The first fight of the night, and it was a nice welcome addition to the fight of the night, was Journey Newson versus Fernie Garcia. And for two dudes who, to the more casual eye, aren't really well known, nobody really knows their skill set, these two dudes put on a fucking show. Journey Newson put on a striking clinic, and Fernie Garcia stayed in this goddamn fight no matter what. Had a complete game plan to try and, fucking implement. But Journey Newson, man, just on top of things. Both guys just swinging and banging. Like, it was a back and forth fight. Very obviously, like, 29-28 or 30-27 for Journey Newson. But even though Journey Newson won all 3 rounds, each round was pretty goddamn close. And if Journey Newson didn't do as much as he did, you could make an argument for Fernie Garcia easily because, like I said, there was not a moment in this fight that Fernie Garcia looked out of it. He did not look out of this fight. He looked game as game could be, and it was an awesome fight. It was a nice open addition to the card, and it was a nice way to just kind of start up the card. A nice back and forth slobber knocker, back and forth fight of the night type of caliber to kind of start off the night and get anyone who's watching the prelims hyped. The next fight was an absolute masterclass, complete domination from my favorite women's fighter, Lupi Godinez. She is a Mexican-Canadian who has just been putting on clinics every time she's in the octagon. She's, I believe, on a 3-fight win streak now, has wins over fucking Luma Bukmi and people like that, and now another fucking one. All of her wins end up being rather fucking dominant like this, and my god, man, it might have been a rather one-sided fight, but Lupi put on a clinic against her opponent. And her opponent's no fucking slouch. Her opponent was coming into this 14-2. Let that sink in. 14 wins, only 2 losses. And Lupi just made fucking easy work. Long night at the office, because it went the distance, but easy work at the office. Easy. Fucking easy. So, yeah. The next fight was obviously the fight that kind of broke the news about the Donald Cerrone fight. Clayton Rodriguez versus CJ Vergara. That was also a fucking awesome fight between two guys. A little bit more of a complete fight in terms of game. So there was more grappling involved in this one. But both guys standing up, fucking standing toe-to-toe against each other. CJ Vergara wins a close 29-28 decision. It was just a back-and-forth fight between both guys. Clayton had moments in the fight where I thought he was going to actually maybe edge out a split decision with some of the shit he was doing. So, honestly, Clayton, a total gamer, showed that he belongs in this octagon, even though he lost via decision. And CJ Vergara just showing how much of a fucking tough nail he is. Like, holy shit. Next fight of the prelims, the early prelims, mind you, was another one of my favorite women's fighters, Tracy Cortez, going up against Melissa Gatto. And this was a rather closer fight. Tracy Cortez ended up edging out a 29-28 decision, but like I said, it was a closer fight. Tracy Cortez mostly taking Gatto to the ground, but Gatto wasn't fucking out of it on the ground. She was making it a hard fight for Tracy Cortez, threatening submissions, constantly scrambling, never letting Tracy Cortez stay complacent in the ground positions. So honestly, it was a back and forth fight, rather more of a grappling fest between the two girls, but a back and forth fight between the two, and Tracy Cortez ended up edging it out. The final fight of the early prelims was Andre Fiallo versus Cameron Van Camp. It was supposed to be Blagoy Ivanov versus Rogério de Lima, but that didn't happen, obviously, because of the Donald Cerrone fight falling through, so they had to move a fight up the card, right? So we ended up getting Andre Fiallo versus Cameron Van Camp for the early Fight Pass prelims, and it delivered. Oh my god, Andre Fiallo, out of nowhere, with a nice fucking, hook that just landed square on the jaw, drops Cameron Van Camp, and then just had him hurt the whole time. As soon as he drops like a sack of potatoes, fucking Andre Fiallo starts following up with more shots, but not many, because you could tell Cameron Van Camp was fucking out. The ref stepped in at a perfect time. Andre Fiallo just absolutely starching Cameron Van Camp in one fucking round, under 3 minutes. It was a nice fucking perfectly placed hook, too. Even in the replay, you see it perfectly land on the jaw, and he just drops. It was a perfectly placed punch. I can't say anything better about it. It was a perfectly placed, beautifully put punch. It was gorgeous. That being said, that's only the early prelims. We still have an entire ESPN prelims card to go through and the fucking main card. So, let's get into that, shall we? So, what do we got on the prelims card here? The ESPN prelims, that is. Well, like I said, we were supposed to have Ivanov versus DeLima as the Fight Pass prelims headliner, but they ended up opening up the ESPN prelims, and it was a rather fucking snooze fest. DeLima just trying and swinging and banging, trying to put down Blagoy, and Blagoy just having that fucking, like, Arabic uncle energy where he's just not going down. He is not. He can eat as many shots as he wants. He is going to stand there and he is going to scold you for taking the baklava. He is going to be very mad about it. But my God, like, Ivanov showing his chin, and honestly the whole fight, other than like those moments where DeLima looked like he was going to put away Ivanov and vice versa, it was mostly just a clinch fest against the cage. Both guys obviously being heavyweight, so both guys just absolutely exhausted, draining their gas tanks against the cage, trying to replenish air, I guess. And yeah, it just wasn't a fun fight to watch. Pretty sloppy. It's something you'd expect with the heavyweights, I guess. Like, you expect these types of things with the heavyweights. Anyway, the next fight of the ESPN prelims was Brandon Hoyval versus Matthew Schnell. And holy goddamn fucking bejeebus, this fight was only one goddamn round, under 3 minutes, but a whole lot happened in those 3 minutes. It was a back and forth affair. The beginning started with Matthew Schnell just putting the fucking heat on Brandon Hoyval, having him teed up against the cage, eating shots. I thought it was going to end up being a TKO. It ends up on the ground. Matthew Schnell fucking threatening with submissions and scrambles. And then all of a sudden it gets back up to the feet. They're against the cage. Matthew Schnell looking pretty goddamn fucking dominant against the cage. And then just out of nowhere, Brandon Royval just throws a fucking guillotine, like a just fat-ass ghillie, and lands it. It didn't even look like it was deep. Like, it didn't even look like his hands were fully clasped and he was squeezing, and fucking Matthew Schnell had to tap. It was just like the ghillie just came out of nowhere. It was awesome. So Brandon Hoyval just fucking squeaks the submission out of his asshole. It was awesome. That being said, we have two more fights on the prelims, and that is a featherweight bout between Macy Chiasson and Norma Dumont, which ended up being a close 29-28 decision, won by Macy. Some people thought Norma won. I didn't think Norma won. I think Macy did enough to kind of prove to the judges that she earned the judges' scorecard there. She implemented enough of her grappling, and I think just edged it out slightly on the striking to kind of squeak the judges' scorecards out. So I wouldn't say it was a robbery. It was rather close. Nothing too important to talk about this fight, really. Nothing that I could have remembered from the fight. But I wanted to talk about the headliner for the prelims. The next fight, which is Francisco Trinaldo versus Danny Roberts. As is, looking at this as a fan, just the matchmaking, you can already fucking tell this is going to be insane. Danny Roberts always brings the fight. He's got a wacky, like, energetic, high-paced style. And Francisco Trinaldo's a dog. Like, dude's, I think, 41, 42, and he is a fucking dog. This man will stand with the youngest killers and hurt them bad. Like, fucking dominate them. And that's exactly what he did last night against Danny Roberts. This man, this fucking 41-year-old man who's well out of his prime, already walking down the hill of prime, reaching the fucking plateau, this man just kept dropping Danny Roberts, had him hurt so many goddamn times this fight, completely fucking dominated him to like a 29-28 decision that at the end, when it went to the fucking scorecards, it was obvious for Trinaldo, man. Trinaldo mixed up his grappling with his striking, and his striking did a whole fucking lot. Had Danny Roberts hurt on more than one occasion. Like, I just kept looking at my fiance who was watching it with me last night, and I was like, that's just old man power. That's old man power. There's no other way I can explain it. I don't understand how a 42-year-old man is hurting a young guy like Danny Roberts. All I can say is it's old man power. He is harnessing old man power, and it's eventually gonna murder Danny Roberts. So yeah, the fight was great. Trinaldo put on an absolute clinic. Danny Roberts put on quite the fight too to kind of make it a show. But Trinaldo, man, showing that fucking IQ and the old man strength. Can't forget the old man strength. But yeah, the prelim headliner was awesome. I was more than happy with taking Randy Brown and Chaos Williams, putting it on the main card, and replacing it with this. This was a great fight to replace it with. We got to see a back and forth fucking high-paced fight, and we got to see Francisco Trinaldo show us the absolute fucking beauty that is old man power. So I was so happy that this ended up being the prelim headliner. Now, we finally get to go into the main card, and I'll be talking in depth about the main card because I can't fucking wait. This was such a great card, man. I'm so excited. So I'm not gonna fucking change. I'm not gonna make any fucking excuses, or I'm not gonna rant about anything. I'm not gonna fucking delay any further. Let's jump into the fucking main card, shall we? I'm so excited about this. All right, let's fucking jump into this shit. Let's just break right into it. Obviously, we know the whole conspiracy theory with the whole card, how the weight cut for a lot of fighters was wonky because they were doing fine, and then the scales told them one thing, and then the scales up front told them the other, or they weighed in very fucking close to the night before, and then the scales were reset, or some stupid shit. It was just a whole wacky fucking, like, case of bullshit, man. And I don't want to get further into it. So there was this weird light looming over the card the whole night. No matter how exciting, how amazing the fucking card was, there was just this weird feeling of fucking Charles isn't the champion anymore. He missed weight. The reason why he missed weight is completely bogus, but because, you know, commissions, rules, and all that, we have to do what we have to do. Just the whole vibe about the card was excitement and uneasiness. So coming into this, it was very, very chaotic, very unnerving. But as soon as the first fight started, we kind of knew we were going to get treated to an absolute fucking brawl. And the first fight of the night delivered that. Randy Brown and Kalen Williams were just swinging and banging for all three rounds of their fight, dude. Randy Brown hitting Kalen Williams with some nice shots, almost fucking like finishing him a couple times. Same with Kalen Williams. Kalen Williams hitting Randy Brown with jabs and shit and dropping Randy Brown and fucking almost finishing him a couple times. Both guys just absolutely having each other on the brink of fucking death. And then Randy Brown ends up fucking edging out a very, very close decision. Some people believed that Randy Brown didn't win it, but I thought he did enough. I thought he just edged it out. His striking was much more successful than Kalen's. Yes, Kalen did land knockdowns just as much as Randy did. Kalen did have Randy hurt just as much as Randy had Kalen hurt. But let's be fucking real here. Randy was bobbing and weaving, sliding out of the way. He kept off the center line, wasn't allowing any of the punches to either hit or land with full impact. And he just minimized the significant strike count compared to him, where every time he'd bob and weave out of the way, he'd come back in the least that Kalen expects it and land like a jab or a hook or a kick. It's something that hurt Kalen and showed that his strikes were more significant. As for the grappling, I feel like it was kind of like an equal footing ground there. Like, not much grappling actually happened. I know that if it came down to it, Randy Brown probably would have been the better grappler if it was a strictly grappling match. But, like, not really much grappling happened between the two guys. There was a little bit of it, but it, like, the entire fight basically contested on the feet. So, we got a nice treat in that regard. But it, like I said, it was kind of a harder fight to score, so I don't see why people could see that it was a robbery or something. I could see why people would think it's a close fight, because it was, but definitely not a robbery. Randy Brown ended up winning via a 29-28 decision. Very close one, mind you. Kalen Williams didn't seem to agree with it, but everybody else in the fucking stadium did. And just the whole fight, man, like, they brought it for us. It was a great fucking fight. It was a great way to start the pay-per-view. Gets everyone's blood pumping. Everyone's so hyped for the next couple fights. Then we get Shogun versus OSP. And it was a weird fight. Not too boring to say the least, granted. But it was definitely a weird fight to say the least. Most of the fight was just Oven St. Preux and Shogun kind of feeling each other out for 3 rounds. landing a jab here, landing a kick there. Ovince St. Preux landing body kicks pretty much the whole fight. Shogun trying to land combos with his boxing the whole night and not really landing. It was more so gauging the distance, it seemed. Both guys didn't really do much. OSP only doing slightly more, and that's not saying much. Like I said, it was basically just 3 rounds of 2 guys trying to feel each other's ranges out. And it was boring as fuck. But Ovince St. Preux ends up fucking continuing the series. He's 2-0 up against Shogun now. If you didn't know, they fought once before back in, I believe, 2014, where Ovince St. Preux just completely flatlined Shogun with an elbow against the cage. That just kind of dropped him, killed him. So, obviously, for 8 years, Shogun's been wanting that one back, and he lost a very close decision. I think that's a better result for Shogun than getting knocked the fuck out in the first round by Ovince St. Preux. So, I gotta give him credit. I gotta commend him for taking that fight back 8 years later. And I feel bad for him, but, Ovince St. Preux did enough to just earn the judges, and I'm not going to complain about it. The next fight of the night was, in my personal opinion, the people's main event. This could have been a fight night, a headliner, and been 5 rounds. But because of the pace of these 2 men, we knew this was not going to go 5 rounds, or even 3 in this sense. And we were right. But the way it ended, I did not expect it to end. Let's just get right into it. So the next fight of the night is a lightweight bout between Michael Chandler, yes, that Michael Chandler, and the Madman, everyone's favorite, Tony fucking Ferguson, dude. This was slated to be an absolute slobber knocker. And I'm going to tell you this. It was. The first round was back and forth. Both guys having each other hurt. Tony had Michael Chandler hurt right from the beginning. Chandler surviving that little fucking spell of being wobbly and coming back and hurting fucking Tony. Dropping Tony a couple times. Chandler getting dropped. It was just a fucking back and forth fight in the first round. So we're ready for an absolute bonker and same second round. 17 seconds in. Click! Out of fucking nowhere. This front kick just slams right against Tony's jaw. Drops him dead. I'm not fucking kidding when I say this. Drops him dead like a sack of potatoes. Tony is lifeless on the fucking canvas, face first. And he's like that for a good couple minutes. He is out cold, folks. It was nasty. You look at the slow-mo replay of this knockout, you can see it was perfectly timed and perfectly fucking placed. Tony was churning for a clear spinning attack, and it wasn't even like he was already halfway through the spinning attack. No, Chandler perfectly placed this kick. He perfectly timed it at the moment that Tony was beginning a spinning attack, and as Tony slightly churned to start that spinning attack, Chandler fucking lands a nasty front kick to the chin out of hell. Like, circa fucking Vitor Belfort versus Anderson Silva. Circa Chito Vera versus Frankie Edgar, if you want to be a little bit more modern about it. Like, it was a nasty knockout. Like, holy fuck. Everyone on MMA Twitter, on social media in general, were freaking the fuck out. Nobody saw a front kick from hell coming from Chandler. Chandler's like 5'6" compared to Tony's 5'10". Nobody expected a front kick to the chin to do that. And holy fucking it did. It killed Tony. I felt bad for Tony because that's a nasty knockout to take. But holy fuck. What a nice knockout by Michael Chandler. Holy fuck. That being said, our blood's pumping. Our blood is going after that fight. What do we have next? Oh, none other than a strawweight title bout, a rematch 8 years in the making between Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza. These two met all the way back in 2014 at the Ultimate Fighter finale to see who is going to be the inaugural strawweight champion. And Carla choked out Rose. So can Carla get the same result? We'll find out. This fight had a lot of hype going in behind it. Clearly not as much hype as the featured bout or the main event, but because it was a rematch 8 years in the making, it had quite enough hype coming from it. And my God, the hype didn't deliver. It did not fucking deliver at all. It didn't deliver. It was a lackluster, boring fight. Both women, for 5 rounds, I'm not kidding, for 5 goddamn rounds, minus like 1 or 2 takedowns from fucking Carla Esparza. 5 fucking rounds of them feeling each other out. It was nothing but 5 rounds of them feeling their range, trying to fucking feel each other out and see how their game plans are going to go. And like I said, minus like a couple takedowns from Carla Esparza. That was quite literally the entirety of the fucking fight. I was so bored. Granted, my newborn seemed to be very interested in the fight. I mean, he can't see much yet. He's got film over his eyes that makes him see blobs and stuff, but he seemed to like the moving fucking figures on the screen because he was absolutely zoned out on it. But me, I was fighting to stay awake during this fight. And when the scorecards were read, I was a little upset. But at the same time, I was like, I could see why it was scored for Carla because it was such a lackluster fight to score. It's definitely not a fucking robbery. I still think Rose did enough to win because, you know, to be the champion, you have to actually beat the champion, and I didn't think Carla did that. But at the same time, it's nothing to complain about because it was such a close fight, such a lackluster fight that lacked so much fucking action that I actually felt bad for the judges trying to score that fight. I genuinely did. Usually, it's like, nah, the judges, this is their job. They can score this shit. But no, I genuinely felt fucking bad for the judges this time around. I was like, nah, I feel bad for them. They have to score this fucking fight? This is ridiculous. So, yeah, granted, I felt really fucking bad for the judges on this one. Carla Esparza ended up winning via a very close split decision. It was a weird scorecard, too. 49-46, 48-47 for Carla, and 48-47 for Rose. It was a weird scorecard. I've heard weirder, granted, but it was a weird scorecard nonetheless. A couple of rounds, at least one round there, was a 10-10 round. The first round was easily a 10-10 round because nobody did anything. It was straight up just a round of them airboxing. They were quite literally shadow boxing, trying to feel each other out. That was mostly the entire first round. So the first round was a 10-10. The rest of them could have went either way because they were so close and there was little to no action. So you can't really tell who edged it out. But yeah, the co-main event was a complete bust. Rose ends up losing her title because, I'm going to be honest, she didn't do enough. She didn't do enough to win. At that point, I want to say the 4th round when Carla landed that first takedown, you could probably make an argument that Carla was up ahead. Rose needed to fucking finish it, but Rose was too scared to finish it. I know that the threat of the takedown was there, but Rose didn't even throw any fucking head kicks the entire fight. There was not a single head kick thrown. So, it was just a lackluster fight. I don't know if it was a bad night from Rose, but congratulations to Carla Esparza. But I'm just going to say this. The winner of Weili Joanna is going to fucking kill that woman. Congratulations on your wedding, Carla, and I can't wait for you to get married. I hope nothing but happiness for you and your husband, or wife, whatever it is. But you're going to get killed by Weili. If you think that Weili is going to do the same shit Rose just did against you, you are mistaken, Missy. Weili is going to bring it. And if you think Joanna's going to fucking do the same thing Rose did, if Joanna ends up winning, again, you are sorely mistaken, Missy. Because Joanna is going to do the exact same shit she did back in 2015 to your dumbass. She's going to fucking walk you down and fucking outstrike you, and the ref's going to have to come in and save you. That's what's going to happen. But anyway, congratulations to Carla Esparza. It was a lackluster fight. I was happy that it was over when it was over. Let's get on to the main event. The reason why a lot of people bought the pay-per-view, if they bought the pay-per-view, let's get into this shit. So, we have, in the main event, Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title. But only one is eligible for the lightweight title. If the other wins, they don't get the lightweight title, but they do become the number 1 contender, so they'll get a title shot no matter what. But if the one wins, they become the champion. So, let's get into this. Charles Oliveira misses weight. He is no longer the champion. He gets stripped as soon as the fight begins. He wins. He's not the champion. Doesn't make him the champion. He ends up being the number 1 contender. The champion, or the title, is now up for grabs for anyone in the next event if he wins. Gaethje, on the other hand, if he wins, becomes the champion, And I'm assuming they're going to try to do like Conor versus Gaethje or some stupid shit next. That being said, let's get into the fights. Let's get into the main event. Let's talk about it. So, what did we expect from this fight? Absolute chaos. And that's exactly what we got. I thought that Charles was going to come in a lot more emotional than I expected because of the whole weigh-in, the whole weight cut bullshit. He didn't. He seemed very calm and collective. He looked like he had a goal to complete, that he was driven to do something, and that he was going to get that thing that he was driven to do done. So that's exactly what he did. He came out fucking rough, came out swinging, had Justin Gaethje hurt right off the bat, but it's Justin Gaethje. He feeds off of being hurt. He feeds off of pain. That man, as Charles is trying to finish the job, clips Charles, hurts Charles, so now Charles is on the back foot, and now Gaethje's fucking backing him up, but as Gaethje's coming forward, Charles hits him with another fucking hook, hurts Gaethje. It was just complete, utter back and forth chaos, and then at one point, Gaethje knocks down Charles. Charles is on the ground trying to coax him down to the ground. Gaethje's like, nah, fuck this, dude. They get back up. They're swinging for a bit. Charles hurts Gaethje. Gaethje comes back, drops Charles again. Charles does the same thing, fucking hands behind his back going like, hey, buddy, come lay down with sexy old Charles here. And Justin walking away like, nope, fuck you, we're standing. So it happens again. Fucking, he stands up. Charles fucking stands with him, hurts Gaethje. Gaethje drops him. So Gaethje goes to the ground with him this time. And it is a grapple fest. An amazing one at that. Gaethje trying his best to survive. Charles just showing his absolute fucking dominance in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Completely scrambling to Justin's back. Threatening nothing but submissions. Justin reversing positions to get mount. But then, fucking Charles will threaten with a guillotine or something. So that forces Justin to move positions. As Justin's moving positions, Charles scrambles. Takes his back once. Fucking almost gets the choke. Doesn't get the choke. Justin tries to reverse. He scrambles again. Charles gets the back again. This time, gets it deep in. But Justin, not about to give up. He is not about that tap-out life. Fucking tries to fight the hands. Successfully gets the hands spread apart, but that doesn't last long. He lets go of the hands to, I'm assuming, to fight something else or focus on scramble position. The moment he lets go of Charles's hands, Charles clasps those hands again, and you can tell. At that moment, that second time around, his arms are tighter, like deeper and tighter around Justin's neck at that point. Justin has no choice. No choice but to either go to sleep or tap. And 3 minutes, 22 seconds into the first round, Justin taps to a rear naked choke. Charles Oliveira is, in my opinion, your UFC lightweight champion. But, unfortunately, because rules, he is not. He's your number one contender. So, I don't know who's going to fight for the vacant title. There's no number one contender fight going on currently. So, I don't know who's going to fight for the contender. If I know Dana, because Dana's a little bitch boy, he's going to try to fucking weasel Conor in there. But I don't want to see that. Honestly, if it comes to it, I know a lot of people are going to say no, and I completely understand. But I could see it happening. The winner of Chandler-Tony, so Chandler, going on for a rematch. Because, yes, Dustin had Oliveira hurt a bit, but Oliveira, like a boss, comes back, kills Dustin. Same with Gaethje. Gaethje had Oliveira hurt. Oliveira comes back, kills Gaethje. The only one in Charles's title reign that has had him so close to being finished was Chandler. Even though Chandler's fight went pretty much the same way as Dustin's did and Gaethje's did, Chandler had him closer to finish than anyone else did. Because when other people had him close to the finish, he was still able to scramble and reverse position and have him threaten. But with Chandler, Charles had no point or no choice but to take it. Just to eat the shots and try to get out of there as best as he can. Chandler might be the biggest problem for Charles right now. And I'm not saying make the rematch right away, but looking at the lightweight rankings, there's no number one contender fight right now. So it's like the only other person that I can think of that deserves that shot is fucking Beneil Dariush. And I don't even know where the fuck Beneil Dariush has been lately. Like, I don't know if he's fought in recently. if he deserves to stay relevant in the rankings right now. Like, I know he's on a fucking great win streak and he's a monster, but like I said, we don't see enough of Beneil to warrant a title shot. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Like, we don't know what's going to happen next for Charles, what the vacant title is going to end up being. Like I said, I wouldn't be too upset and I wouldn't be too surprised. Actually, to be fair, I actually would be quite upset, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Dana decided, yeah, we're just going to throw Conor into the mix. Conor versus Oliveira for the vacant title. Let's do it. Because it's Conor. I swear to God, Conor's got blackmail photos of Dana at this point. But anyway, that's it for the fights, man. I just wanted to mention, earlier in the podcast, I said that there is some fights going on as I'm recording right now. I was wrong. I had to double check in the little break that I took to take a drink. In between, me talking about the whole story of the UFC 274 card and then me going into UFC 274. So in between that little break I took, I took a drink, checked. There's no other fights happening this weekend. So everything that I've covered today on the episode is everything that happened this weekend. So if you guys watched all the fights that happened this weekend, good for you guys. You guys enjoyed the hostilities. I hope you did. But obviously, I think the main attraction of this weekend was UFC 274, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed the card. There was a couple of lackluster fights, yeah, but I really enjoyed the card. It was a great card, all in all. Even the main event delivered. The co-main event, not so much, but the other fights on the main card delivered. The prelims were pretty fucking solid, had some pretty good finishes on there, some good fights. So, all in all, was a good night of fights. Was a good weekend of fights, because we got some pretty decent shit going on. Like I said, Daniel Argueta winning the bantamweight title at LFA. If you guys don't know who Dan Argueta is, he was just on the most recent season of The Ultimate Fighter. His only loss coming to the Ultimate Fighter winner, Ricky Tercios, so that's something. But anyway, that's it for this episode. Next week, we have, I believe, Rakic and Blachowicz. So we've got Jan Blachowicz versus Rakic next weekend. And we've also got more LFA. I believe there's more Bellator. Of course, probably going to be more PFL. So we'll get into that all next weekend when it happens. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed the hostilities this weekend. And for anyone who's watching as this comes out on Monday, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope you guys have a wonderful work day. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace out, you wonderful people.
You've been listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast. Keep in touch with Dillo on his social media at Dillo Ross on Twitter and Dillo Ross on Instagram.